Hey everyone, and welcome back to another LEGO Harry Potter comparison. Today I will be covering two versions of the Sorting Hat ceremony and placing both in front of my custom backdrop. First, we have set 4701 Sorting Hat, which was released in 2001 with 48 pieces. The main section of the build is meant to resemble the raised wooden platform called the High Table, where the teachers and staff would sit in the Great Hall. On top of the platform is a stool for a minifigure to sit on, which has the ability to rotate 360 degrees. The one and only minifigure included is no other than Harry James Potter, this time in unsorted Hogwarts robes. This version of Harry was exclusive to 4701, although his torso print was available in 4708 Hogwarts Express for Hermione as well. Harry comes with his wand in brown, and he is currently worth about $4.25 used or $16 in new condition. On Harry's head is the sorting hat, which was used to arrange each of the students into their houses. The original sorting hat does not have any facial features or printing, and therefore was available with 37 other sets in black. It is currently worth about 25 cents used or 50 cents in new condition. On the side is a proper hairpiece for Harry when he is not wearing the sorting hat. Perched at the back of the build is Hedwig, Harry's snowy white owl. This specific version of Hedwig was available in 12 Harry Potter sets, but could be found in 3 other sets as a different white owl. She is currently worth about 75 cents used or $2.25 in new condition. The front corners of the set have some torch or candelabra details, which rest on a light gray 1x2 sloped brick. Each side of the build is supported by a black 1x2 inverted slope on top of a light gray 2x2 corner brick. This creates a gap underneath the angled top plate for the most important section, the spinner. The spinner is primarily yellow, but has each house printed in their respective colors at each quadrant: Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin. You do, of course, have to spin this modified tile around manually, which is perfectly acceptable. This piece is currently worth about 50 cents used or $2.75 in new condition. At the very front of the set is a black wand piece clipped down as the needle or arrow that points to each chosen house. In this case, Harry was sorted into Gryffindor after pleading the sorting hat not to pick Slytherin. Now, let's take a closer look at the back of the set. Below Hedwig is another rotating feature, this time a podium with a 2x2 printed tile hidden inside. This tile print was established in 1993 with the castle theme, however, I'm sure it's meant to represent Harry's acceptance letter to Hogwarts. It is currently worth about 50 cents used or $3 in new condition. The tan 1x1 round brick on top of the podium can either be used to perch Hedwig as shown or for the sorting hat to rest on. On each side of the podium are 2 yellow goblets, which are raised up by a brown 1x1 round brick or cylinder. Additionally, there are some 1x8 tan plates at the back of the set, which indicate the primary stone color of Hogwarts. 4701 is an extremely special and nostalgic set for me. It was actually my very first LEGO set that I had ever received. It's small and simple, but I don't know which direction my collecting would have taken if I hadn't begun with Harry Potter. I was pretty excited to work on my backdrop for the sorting hat sets, mainly because my favorite part of Hogwarts is the Great Hall. This particular backdrop took around 6 hours to complete and is meant to resemble the large set of windows in the back of the Great Hall right behind the High Table. I included the point counter for the house cup on the right side and the mysterious back door on the left. I did not want to include the staff table itself in my artwork because I figured I could build it physically as part of my backdrop frame. My build is very similar to my previous iterations, consisting of several door and window frames acting as scaffold. On the front side is the high table where some of the teachers can sit and watch the sorting hat ceremony. I made room for 5 minifigures, so I added 5 golden goblets and 5 plates with some assorted food. There are meant to be a few steps leading up to the high table, which I did portray in my artwork. I didn't bother creating them for my backdrop stand because I was initially going to place 4701 directly in front of the high table. In place of the steps, I came up with some random pillar-like supports, that way the front wasn't completely flat. Up above are 14 floating candles, which are connected to some black droid arms staggered at different heights. For variation, I used some of the bent skeleton arms in black here and there. This is what my custom backdrop looks like, paired with 4701 sorting hat. The Great Hall should be fairly bright and candlelit, so I decided to change the ambience to some warmer lighting. I wasn't quite sure how to pull off this backdrop initially based on the difference in angles for both sets. My solution was to sadly cut down the length of the high table and create a spot for each set to wedge right next to it. Due to the fact the set is built at a 45-degree angle, it fits a bit awkwardly with my backdrop. There wasn't a great way for me to avoid that, but I'll just have to pretend there aren't large gaps on each side. The students are meant to be sorted in the center of the platform with the back window directly behind them. This was possible for the original set, however I did not like the amount of the high table that was being blocked from view. Either way, I do still like how everything fits together. Now, let's move on to the next set that was actually a 2-in-1 from a Build Your Own Adventure book. Here is 505905, which was released in 2019 with 97 pieces. The first build is referred to as the Spinner and will be the only build that I am comparing for today's video. The second build is called the Fireplace, which I can always review on its own. So, let's take a closer look at the minifigure included with this book. As suspected, we have an upgraded version of Harry, this time in Gryffindor apparel. This variant of Harry was also available in 75954 Hogwarts Great Hall, along with 2 other polybags and 6 total books. Harry comes with the new wand mold from 2018, and he is currently worth about $1.50 used or $2.75 in new condition. In front of Harry is a short pedestal with the new mold for the sorting hat resting on top. The updated sorting hat is much more accurate, as the original did not have a face and was black in place of dark brown, which did not exist at the time. There is one other color variant of the new mold included with 76429 Talking Sorting Hat in reddish brown. This version of the sorting hat in dark brown is currently worth about $1.25 used or $1.50 in new condition. Next, we have the spinner itself, which now consists of 4 different printed 2x2 tiles. Each tile has a separate house print and varies in color based on the different houses. As before, the spinner does have to be manually rotated, but I don't really think any gears or power functions were necessary anyway. In place of a wand, the pointer for this spinner is now a reddish-brown Nexonite shield or modified pentagonal tile. Behind Harry is an arched doorway, which I almost suspect is meant to resemble the door to the back left of the Great Hall. On each side of the doorway are 2 torches resting on top of some modified bricks with scroll detailing. Above the arch is a light bluish-gray 2x4 tile probably for some extra detail as well. Oddly enough, there are some house crests in the corners of the Great Hall, one of which would be roughly where this gray tile happens to be placed. At the bottom corners of the build are some light bluish gray pieces, which might suggest a different type of stone for the flooring. Mainly, I suspect a few of the pieces for the fireplace build had to be utilized there. Both sides of the set have more stone detailing in dark tan, along with a candle clipped in place by a black battle droid arm. These, of course, are the inspiration I used for my backdrop's floating candles. The very top of the build comes to a point with a 1x2 dark bluish gray double sloped brick. Now, let's take a closer look at the back side of the build. Here we have the arched doorway, which does not really lead to anything outside of the Great Hall. If you did want to customize where this opening leads, there are a couple of clips down below that could connect to a different build. Across the bottom of the archway are a couple medium nougat 1x4s with brick detailing. Some of the last features are up above where the top of the set slopes downward. On both corners are a pearl gold 1x1 cone, giving a bit more of an interesting shape to the roof, if you will. Finally, there are two side inclusions with this Build Your Own Adventure book. On the left side is a reddish-brown trunk or chest, which does not have any contents. On the right is a reddish-brown book with a 1x2 printed tile inside, giving directions for the Wingardium Leviosa spell. I imagine the book is meant to be placed inside of the chest, that way it's not empty. As promised, let's take a look at the new spinner build along with my custom backdrop. This time, the set wedges very neatly into place next to the high table and in front of the wooden door in my artwork. I think this worked quite well, and the level of the high table compared to the set doesn't throw anything off too much. Again, this isn't really where the students would be positioned for sorting, but the set is designed with an archway, so I had to make do. The set does cover up one of the crest details I had drawn, but I do almost like that aspect given what I had mentioned before. The point counter for the house cup does a good job with balancing out the opposite side. I could have built this too, however I wanted to keep the high table at the same depth as the spinner build, which leaves no room behind the teachers and staff. That is going to conclude today's comparison for both versions of the Sorting Hat ceremony. I'll have plenty more content down the road for the Great Hall in particular, but soon we'll be moving on from the Harry Potter theme. This video was insanely stressful to edit because I completely reframed the entire process for myself. I have a detailed explanation for that in my description if you're curious, but either way, thank you all so much for your patience. If you enjoy my LEGO content, please consider leaving a like and/or subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you join me next time.